I don't mean to only play this game when I'm recapping a trip to a convention. That just is kind of happening lately. They are tales. Yes, that's why I'm playing this game while talking about them. So, Colossalcon was overall good, but there was some shit that went down around it. The convention went from Thursday to Sunday, but for us, Colossalcon technically started Tuesday before the Thursday of the con. That is when WonRull flies in to stay with us. So I go and pick up WonRull from the airport. Blondeguygamer, decided to, instead of flying in, drive in from Canada. Will and I are just kind of hanging out at home. I'm actually still taking care of a work assignment when he gets there. And eventually, Blondie arrives. Blondie mentions that on his way here, he kept getting stopped by trains. The train that Blondie encountered specifically was a Union Pacific train, and instead of like it being moving while just waiting on the road, this train was completely stopped. And it forced Blondie to take like this big ass detour to try and get around it, going down like these one-lane roads. Why didn't he try suplexing it? I don't know if Blondie knows that blitz technique. I said Tuesday night I was just going to gloss over, but Tiger wants me to mention the, as Blondie put it, the lightweight championship for Tiger. So, I don't drink at all, but Tiger will drink now and then. And as such, her tolerance for alcohol is kind of not as good now. So Tiger has a bottle of, was it sangria? I think it was sangria. And she is just completely gone. She's just yelling random shit. And then she's trying to like walk down this hallway. And somehow, I can't remember how, she ends up stumbling and falls into a closet door and breaks the door. Eventually, when Tiger sobered up, we decided it's nice out. We have the space to do it now. We're gonna cook out. So we get out our grill, we get out a fire pit, and we grill up some burgers and hot dogs, and we have those. Then we get the fire pit going, and we all make s'mores. And it was a lovely time. A lovely time where I got bit by a shit ton of insects. There are many, like, running gags and jokes and dumb videos that have some place in our, like, little circle of friends. And one of them is this very confusing video of someone who tried writing lyrics to a wrestler's theme song. And for the chorus, they decided to pitch shift the hell out of their voice.
Now sing with me. Apollo Crews, leaving you down. Apollo Crews for the count. Apollo Crews, leaving you flat.
I remember just playing this one time for WonRull with like next to no context, and he just started laughing hysterically. I start playing this on my phone while we're outside, and WonRull says, no, it's not gonna work, it's not gonna make me laugh anymore, Oni has completely killed the joke for me, just don't even bother. But I just keep the song playing, and the chorus hits. And the moment he hears like the voice start pitch shifting all over the place, he collapses to the ground laughing. And he says that he threw up from laughing so hard. I'm just dumbfounded at this. I think the way I phrased it was, holy shit, that dropped him like a headshot. Yeah. So Wednesday comes. Tiger tomorrow still has to work one more day at her job. But we're able to coordinate a time that we can all meet up for lunch on Tiger tomorrow's break. So we go to this Japanese place called Hiro's. And it's very apparent when you see the exterior and especially the interior that this place used to be probably a Burger King or some fast food place like that, because the design of the interior, the way the exterior looked, it gives like all the signals for this used to be a fast food place. Now it's a ramen place. So we go in and there's like no waitstaff or anything. You don't order up front, even though like that fast food style counter is still up there. Instead, you seat yourself at a table and there's this QR thing you scan on your phone and then you place an order. So you place your order, they make your food, and then this robot wheels your stuff out for you. It's basically like if your bookshelf was a robot. That's the thing that was serving the food. And it had this digitized voice that would like say, here's your food, tap the button on my head or pat my head, and I'll go back. And sometimes as it's rolling around serving people, it'll go like, fa la 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 la, I am a fantastic waiter, fa la la la. Something like that. I was looking at other people in the restaurant, and there was this one dude who had his phone out as the robot was like wheeling the order to them, and he's just got this big goofy smile on his face. But yeah, I had ramen there, WonRull, and Tiger had the takoyaki and pork buns, which apparently were pretty good. I mean, aside from the novelty of the robot servers, the food itself was really good. So I definitely want to go back there at some point. This is the day that I took WonRull and Blondie to a bunch of game stores. So there's a local chain called Play It Trade It, and I brought them to, I think, 2 locations for that, and I think we also stopped at a place called Warp Zone. They're all like retro video game stores. Play It also has like DVDs, Blu-rays of movies and TV shows. Let's just say money was spent.
These are the faces of people who spent over $400 before the convention even started.
He did it!
Are you saying collectively?
Collectively, because most of it was you.
Fuck you!
So there was a lot of testing stuff back at home. So there's a Korean barbecue place nearby named Gogi. It was my second time being there, and I still feel like I don't have a firm grasp on it. The cooking meat parts, yeah, fine, I can do that. But like all the sides and shit that they give you, I mean, not to be that guy, but I don't really like the taste of almost any of it. So it just ends up being something I like push over to the side and then pile up my plate with meat. Other than that, relatively uneventful Wednesday, because we're just anxious to for the next day to come so we can start heading over to the convention. So Thursday comes, we load up 2 cars because Tiger had a rather complex cosplay that demanded space. The drive itself is relatively uneventful. I didn't hit any trains along the way. I don't think Tiger did either. So anyway, we get to our hotel. I need to mention where this con took place first. It was in Sandusky, Ohio, which if you don't know where that is, Cleveland is like northeast Ohio along the shore of Lake Erie. Sandusky is about, I want to say, an hour west of that, also close to the shore. Sandusky is a bit of an oddball location, because it's basically like a resort type place, but it's like, I want to say 20% resorts / theme parks, because that's where Cedar Point is. I jokingly said at a couple of points, well, if the con sucks, we'll just go to Cedar Point. Little did I know the con would not be the issue. And then it's like 10% commercial district and the rest of it is just rural. And we get to our hotel, which we booked way in advance. And we looked at the reviews for it. The reviews seemed okay. And then we checked the ratings for it, and it seemed like it was okay. And then we got into the room. First off, check-in took a bit of time. And when we finally got into the rooms, well, it was actually a struggle getting into the rooms because the key cards weren't really working. So one of the staffers comes through, and does the key card a few times into the room and says you have to like put it in and take it out at a medium speed. That didn't really help. We were still struggling with the key cards, like for the entire time that we were there. So we finally get into the hotel room, and
Good to the last drop.
it's shit. I have like a full page of notes on this hotel, and I have images. We get in, we try turning on the lights, and there's just this one like very dim bulb that's supposed to light this entire room, and it is not working. I go into the room and I trip on something. So there's this like vinyl / wood floor, and I look down and one of the pieces of wood for the floor is sticking up. And next to it is another panel of wood that is cracked in half. So I go, this is not encouraging. And I notice as other people are walking over this floor, it is very noticeably sagging downwards. So, not a stable foundation, but we keep going on. And speaking of the floor, this is just something he does normally, but when WonRull is indoors, he will tend to walk around barefoot. Normally, this is not an issue at all. But in this hotel, it's an issue. One of the first things Tiger Uchimaru does when she walks in is she takes like these Lysol wipes and wipes down every surface in the room, plus like doorknobs and handles and anything we might touch with our hands. Doesn't have enough to wipe down the floor because usually that's not something you think about. But WonRull walks around barefoot in this place for a little bit, which I couldn't believe he even considered doing. And he's like takes one of the Lysol wipes to like try and clean off his foot, gives it like a couple wipes, and it comes up black. And this is why I wear shoes everywhere. So I mentioned wiping down the surfaces. That included like all the surfaces of the furniture, like tables and desks. And the furniture itself looked extremely old. Like there were parts where the finish was just missing. There was very noticeable damage to it. Some of the furniture looked like as old or older than me. And that brings us to the cabinet where the mini fridge was being held. It becomes very apparent that the mini fridge is leaking water. And not only is it leaking water, it's very clearly been leaking water, because there are like these big ass water stains and water damage on the cabinet leading toward the floor. The nicest thing I can say about the place is we didn't encounter any bugs in the room, but that is like the faintest praise I can give this place. So on top of the mini fridge leaking, we open it up and there are some hairs in it. And it's also noticeably not that cold. Above the mini fridge, there's this shelf with a microwave on it, and anytime you put some pressure on it, the shelf wobbles all over the place. It is not stable at all. And I was not going to put anything in this microwave because I do not trust hotel microwaves in general, much less when they're in shitholes like this. We start checking around the microwave because we're very suspicious of this room already. I know Tiger and I have watched a show called Another Dirty Room a lot, which is these guys who go into these like really cheap hotels and motels and do full inspections of the room looking for like insects, pests. They'll do blacklight tests. They'll do tests for like semen and blood on bed sheets. So we're kind of in that mode. And I'm like thinking in the back of my mind, are we going to find a crack pipe somewhere in this room? Well, not quite. We didn't find a crack pipe, but when we looked behind the microwave, we did find a blunt. Like, we're still trying to unload the cars into this room. And in the process, you know, like that thing that flips out to catch the door so it doesn't completely shut on you? Well, the thing that was holding that the piece on the door together was like falling out. The screws on it were loose, practically falling out. They were noticeably stripped. One of them had like tissue paper wrapped around it. I don't know if that was supposed to help keep it in place, but it obviously didn't do anything. And that brings us to the drawers for the cabinets. So we're opening these drawers. One of them has an extra comforter for the bed, like a thicker top sheet. And we're wondering, why? Huh? Why is that there? But then we open another drawer. First off, one of the drawers is just missing a knob. No idea where it went. And then we open another drawer. There's a hole in it. I hate to say it, but basically a bullet-sized hole. Don't know how it got there. Don't want to know how it got there. There was AC in the room, which actually did shoot cold air into the room. But the rooms are so long that the AC is on one side of it. And if you're like a certain distance away from it, you don't really feel the cooling effect of it. Like, I was hot every night that I tried staying in there. I didn't want to stay in there, but we kind of didn't have much of a choice. So as for the beds themselves, the comforters have very noticeable cigarette burns in them that formed several holes in the sheets. We tried checking the mattresses, but there were sheets sewn to the mattresses, so we couldn't completely pull them off and do like a full-on check for any sort of pests, particularly bed bugs. The bed sheets themselves had patches sewn into them. Like there was a hole or a rip somewhere, and like these patches of sorts were sewn in to try and make up for that. And I'm jumping ahead in the story a little bit to tell you this, but it all ties into fuck this hotel. At one point we turned the comforters over, and oh, the mystery stains on the other side of this comforter. I don't know if it was blood or semen or urine or what. I didn't want to know. By the way, I should note that the entire trip, I did not sleep under the covers at all. And the same day we did that, I decided to do like the another dirty room test of taking the pillow out of the pillowcase. And this thing is just covered in sweat stains, and it kind of smells like a high school gym locker room. Yeah, I don't know how we didn't get sick from staying in that room, because holy shit. And actually, I'm still not done talking about that room. So the staff were, I'll go so far as to call them generally friendly. But even if they aren't doing anything, and they just happen to be within speaking distance of you, they will ask you for a tip. I remember one time I was trying to load something into the car to go to the convention, and one of the staffers was like, "Do you need help with that?" And I said, no, I'm good, thanks." And he goes, "Okay, do you have any tips for us?" And I'm thinking, motherfucker, you haven't done anything. But I told him I don't have any cash on me, which was true. I had my cash still in the room, and man, if they ever figure out a way to like tip service people with credit cards, we're fucked. Yeah, WonRull was unfortunate enough to lose $5 because of the staff just constantly asking for tips. Also, because of the location of the hotel, first of all, we had a nice scenic view of a dumpster. It was also really loud because the hotel was very close to like this state route that was used by a lot of people, and it's the kind of route that like trucks will use, bikers will use. So it was rough trying to get to sleep in that place. And also, we brought a cooler for drinks, but the ice machine, first off, with everything else in this hotel, I did not trust the ice machine. But even if we did, we were at the far end of the building, and the one ice machine was all the way on the opposite side. I'm in fuck this mode, so we just unload the car, get back into the cars, and head to the convention. Our hotel was like 15 minutes down the road from where it was taking place. So Colossalcon happened at the Kalahari, which I don't know how many of you know what the Kalahari is, so I'm just going to explain it. It's a resort type place, which has an outdoor water park and an indoor water park, as well as like outdoor mini golf, blacklight mini golf indoors, an arcade space, some restaurants inside. It's a pretty nice place, but the rooms for it can be really pricey, like easily over $200 a night. It's definitely the kind of thing that you gotta like get a group of people together for to be able to afford. So we get to the Kalahari. We eventually figure out like where the convention space is, because just imagine a big ass building, and the right side of the building is where the restaurants, the indoor water park, and most of the hotel block is, and the other side is where the convention space is. And there's a massive parking lot, and even for Thursday, there were a ton of cars there. So we park, we walk over, we get our pre-reg badges. There were some cars out in front of the convention that were being shown off. And there was one of them that was like, it was a Trueno from Initial D. Same model of car, exact same paint job, just like it came straight out of the game or manga or anime or OVA, whatever you watch. So we get our badges, and we notice that our badge designs, I can't remember who noticed it first, but someone noticed that it looked like it had like a homeless version of Geoffrey the giraffe from Toys R Us. And sure enough, later on, we're wandering the hall and we see this big ass like giraffe costume wearing a diaper and pushing this cart with a sign on the front of it, like this cardboard handwritten sign that will say, it was like, "We'll sell toys for food" or something like that. And he really knew how to play up to the audience.
In honor of Johnny Depp kicking Amanda Heard to the curb, we got a pirate, all right? Look at the likeness right here. You can't find this on Amazon. You getting this for the cameras? We got a special con price, $15.99. Will you? $12. What do you think? Take it or leave it.
It put me in a better mood after dealing with the hotel shit. It was torn up undies. Look, undies can be a diaper if you try hard enough. So the thing about getting there Thursday is that the setup for it is a little different. Colossalcon had an initial setup where like they were still trying to prep the dealer's space, like the main dealer's space. What they had was something called the new dealer's space, which was a smaller space that was like across the hall from the main one. And that's where some dealers were able to like get in early, get some early sales. So one of the main reasons that we went to this convention, like, well, for me at least, was that Casey Mongelo and Kira Buckland were going. Their flights came in around like 7, 8 o'clock local time. But the thing is, Sandusky is not a big city at all. And as I mentioned before, it's about an hour west of Cleveland. Casey and Kira arrived at Hopkins Airport, which is in Cleveland. So they had to land there, get their shit, and then they grabbed something to eat because they were hungry, and then they hitched a ride over to the con. So even though they were on the ground by like 7, 8 o'clock, it was like 11 or later when they finally got to the Kalahari, got into their room, and were able to just drop their shit off. By then, we had already gone back to the hotel room, but Tiger and I really wanted to say hi to them. We both took a car, and we were planning to just like say hi and give them a couple of like hello gifts. We figure out where they are, we go to visit them at their room, and Kira Buckland is a massive David Bowie fan. And while I was at one of the game stores, they also had these like art prints for musicians. And one of them was a framed piece of David Bowie art. So I got that for Kira, and I wasn't even thinking at that time, is she gonna be able to pack this to go home? Fortunately, she could. For Casey, this is where it gets a little muddled, because I got them a copy of Tony Hawk's American Wasteland for the PS2 because they didn't have that. And I also brought my memory card and gave them my save for the game, in which all of the story missions were completed. Because if you've never played American Wasteland, the story missions can be an absolute chore to get through. I got through all of those, which unlocked all the skaters, and then I also unlocked all the levels by doing that, and the abbreviated classic mode that's included with the game. Also, because I know Casey likes skateboarding, I was wandering through one of the retro stores, and I think this was before Blondie and WonRull arrived, when I was just doing my own shopping. And I glanced at this one shelf of DVDs, and I notice this logo. It's a 411VM logo. If you don't know what that is, that's a popular like skateboarding magazine / documenting video type group. And it's basically like a best of thing, which includes clips from several different video packages and video distributions for skateboarders, including Rodney Mullen, who both Casey and I have like a lot of admiration for. So I end up getting that. Before the convention, I ripped the video from the DVD to my computer, just so I can have it. But I gave that DVD set to Casey, in addition to like a bunch of stickers that I'd had saved up from all my trips to the skate shop. There's a local place here called Embassy Skate Shop, and they will like always throw in like a couple of stickers with anything you buy. And as a result, I'd built up like quite the collection of skate stickers. I just gave them to Casey, said, "Here, take what you want." I should have gotten like a baguette to split with them, but I didn't think of that until too late.
Choke on a baguette, you French fuck.
Hey, yo!
Tiger brought some things as well. They brought an art piece of Bloody Roar 2 that was based upon how Casey and Kira are in real life, and they loved it. And Tiger also made these like special German chocolate candies, which are like chocolate and then caramel and then like a brownie mix. It's delicious. And she made like a pan of this for them, which over the course of the weekend they didn't really get to as much. And then Sunday came and they realized, oh shit, we gotta get through these, because like they're not gonna let us take these in the car and on the plane. So what Kira did was share those. Like they had one and then shared them with all the other guests that they were hanging out with. And I remember Kira saying that like they were delicious, which like made Tiger Chimaru's day. They might still be over the moon about that. I don't know. Ask them. So while I'm over there, Casey and I do what we usually do whenever we're together, which is play Tony Hawk games. When we do that, we almost always lose track of time. And that was certainly the case here, because eventually we look at the clock and we go, oh fuck, we gotta go back to the hotel and get some sleep. We're like, oh shit, we gotta go back. It was nice meeting you. Look forward to seeing you over the course of the con. And we head back to the room. Now the thing about the room that I didn't mention yet is there are 2 beds. They are not queen-size beds. They're just like, I think twin-sized. Which, when you have 4 adults in the room, means that it's going to be cramped. But we get back, and Blondie's asleep in one bed, and WonRull's asleep in the other bed. And we are on like, I think 2 a.m. brain at this point. We're already like pissed and frustrated with the hotel room. At some point, Casey offered like if we needed crash space, we could just go to their room. And I messaged them at like 2 something in the morning going, does the offer still stand? They said yes, so Tiger Chimaru and I get back in the car, drive back to the Kalahari, park, bring our shit to the hotel room, and we just crashed with them for the night. So anyway, the next morning comes. We make our way back to the hotel because without us, like, Blondie and WonRull don't have a ride to the convention, so we have to go back. Another reason we have to go back is so Tiger Chumaru can get into her cosplay. Which, I don't know if anyone here's played Pokemon Colosseum, but there's a character in there named Venus, who has this very elaborate looking dress and headpiece, and it's a cosplay that she's wanted to do for a very long time and has invested like a lot of time and money into. This was their time that they wanted to do it. Tiger Chumaru gets like the dress for this thing on. They get the wig for it. There's like a veil that she wears for it. And then we start heading to the convention. Because when in full cosplay for this, you can't lean back because there's a back piece and a head piece. So we drive to the con, and once we're there, she like gets the back piece on, and the headpiece has to be like wired and bobby pinned into the wig. It's tricky to put together. Let's just put it at that.
On your word.
And because we were still like trying to figure out how exactly to make this work, there were periods over the course of the con where it would come loose and we'd have to like readjust the bobby pins. But otherwise it looked good. Now one thing we couldn't have anticipated, and I was kind of walking with Tiger Chumaru being a guide of sorts, because if she turned her head too much, like the head piece and the back piece would collide with each other, or they would narrowly miss each other, and then she tried turning her head back to normal, and the pieces would get caught on each other. Then I was just making sure like no one would bump into her on either side and potentially damage it, but we're walking through the con. We get into the dealer's room, not the new dealer's room, the proper dealer's room, the main one. And Tiger spots a Mirror B cosplayer, who's another Pokemon Colosseum character. This is like the holy grail for her. She takes off while in this dress with this awkward headpiece and back piece and dress shoes on, and tracks down this Mirror B cosplayer and takes a photo with them. Hell of a moment for Pokemon Colosseum. There was a thing where I was going to cosplay Ein from Pokemon Colosseum with Tiger Chumaru, but the parts for that didn't arrive in time, so we're probably going to like couples cosplay that at some point in the future. We were planning to hang out a bit with Casey and Kira at certain points, like when they weren't busy. But their schedules for Colossalcon were ridiculous. Like, there were certain days where they had more than 1 2-hour autograph session. They were busy with panels. There was VIP stuff that they had to do beyond what showed up in the programming. It was just a lot for them to handle, and by the time that they were done with it, they were usually too tired to do anything. Which is kind of a shame, because Casey and I were planning to like do a little skating, because there's enough space around the outside of the Kalahari to do that. They couldn't fit their skateboard into their carry-on or their luggage, because they had to make room for some stuff that they needed for the panels. So what I did was I actually own 3 skateboards, 2 of which I got for Christmas one year. I have a very old Veriflex skateboard. I have a freestyle skateboard, and then I also have a creature skateboard, which is like a modern, typical street skateboard. I brought the waltz board, which was the like hybrid one between modern street and old school freestyle, and I brought the creature skateboard, and I figured, okay, well, we can skate with these. At various points in the convention, I was carrying these around because I actually had like one of them for a cosplay I was doing, which meant since it's technically a prop, I was going to get it checked at I think it was the health and safety room. Like, certain cons will handle this differently. Colossalcon is one of them. They just have a general health and safety section, which is also where prop check happens. And they basically just asked me, are you going to try riding this while you're inside the convention? And I said, no. And they're like, okay, we don't even need to tag this. Go ahead. Thing is, though, trying to skate in the Kalahari parking lot is a bit hazardous. Like, the biggest enemy to a skateboarder in an environment like that is pebbles. Because they can get stuck under the trucks and cause your board to stop and you to keep moving and just go flying into the pavement. And there were a couple of moments where I was using the skateboard to like head back to my car or get to the convention faster, and at least twice I almost ate shit. Just from hitting a rock and like flying off of my board. But Casey wound up being so busy that we ultimately didn't get to do that. At least not outside of the con. Right, so we didn't really skate around the convention. But the rooms at the Kalahari, like even just the regular rooms, are like a fairly good size. This is definitely the kind of convention where you could like really pack people into rooms. So there was like some open floor space in the room, and Casey and I realized, you know what? This would be a good place to do some flat ground stuff. For a little bit, we're both on these skateboards just dicking around doing flat ground tricks, or experimenting with flat ground tricks at least. I almost landed a varial rail flip. So I definitely got to start practicing those now. Like, I just did it on a whim and almost got it. Yeah, I showed them like a couple tricks that are simpler to do with the waltz board that I had. Stuff like boardwalks and various things from the rail stand position. Also, while we were there, we saw what Casey had planned for a Tony Hawk panel that they were doing. Ben Diskin is also a guest at this convention. He voiced Eric Sparrow in Tony Hawk's Underground. So what they were doing is Casey modded Tony Hawk's Underground to both make themselves the like main skater player character, and got Ben Diskin to record new dialogue for Eric Sparrow. New Colossalcon specific dialogue. Like there's a line where he just goes,
When you were Colossalcon,
and he even revoiced the tutorial thing. So like instead of saying you can get off your board by pressing this, this, and this, he just says,
first get off your skateboard and start jumping around like a cold Alaska.
because like I said I was going to cosplay Eric Sparrow for this convention. Because like I've never seen anyone cosplay Eric Sparrow before, and it's a relatively simple costume to do. All I really had to do was find the right color clothes, and then like paint the design with stencils onto the hoodie that he wears, which was actually kind of tricky because like I didn't have much time to do this in. But I also did something a little different, which was the design on the back of Eric Sparrow's hoodie is different in the final game versus the beta version of the game. And I wound up stenciling the beta version's design onto the hoodie because it was a little simpler. Like, the regular version is this big-ass skull, and it's got flaming eyes, and I knew it was going to be too complex, given how much time I had to make this happen. While the beta version has this somewhat cartoony skull with a headband, and the word grief underneath it. And I said, you know what? I can make that work. So that's what I did. But as I'm doing this, I also show Casey that aside from the skateboard, I have a prop that goes with it. What I end up doing is I got one of these little mini cassette things for old camcorders, and I wrote Hawaii helicopter on it. Because in Tony Hawk's Underground, Eric Sparrow betrays the guy who was his best friend since they were kids multiple times. And one thing he does is he films this stunt that the player skater does, where he jumps from one hotel building in Hawaii over a helicopter, does a McTwist, and lands on the other building. And what he ends up doing is he steals that footage and repurposes it to make it look like he's the one who did that stunt. And he uses that to turn pro. So I made a prop of that tape and showed Casey to it. And at various points, Casey messages me saying, Ben Diskin is going to try to steal your tape. So I think, all right, let's make a game of this. I get to the convention, and at one point, I'm eating with my friends at this place called B-Lux, which is like one of the restaurants inside the Kalahari. It's a burger joint. We're at one table. There's this big-ass window and then more seating beyond it, and Ben is at one of those tables. He's there with I think his wife, and then Casey and Kira. So, I have the tape with me. I pull it out and hold it up so that it's in front of the window, and you can like just barely see like Casey, Kira, Ben, and his wife in the background. Snap a photo, message it to Casey, and said, not happening. By the way, B-Lux became a bit infamous over the weekend because they have these huge milkshakes. I have no problem with milkshakes at all. Like, I had 2 of them while I was there, and I didn't feel any ill effects from them. However, some of the guests did. One of them being Kaiji Tang, who was also a guest there. And I'll talk more about him later. But on Twitter, he posted, bought a $14 milkshake, and the lactate isn't working. Ask me anything. Ben Diskin also had one of these shakes. He retweets an image of like 2 of these shakes on a table. And the caption for it just says, I'm more shake than man now. Look, if you're going to be in the Midwest, you got to be prepared for our food pyramid, which is like 80% dairy. Another person I know who is lactose intolerant but insists on getting things like milkshakes anyway, also had issues with one of them. I won't name names. I might be staring at your username in the chat right now. So anyway, time passes. And Casey and Kira decide they're going to go to the indoor water park. And Tiger Uchimaru and WonRull have their like swim trunks and their bathing suits with them. They go with them too. Now, I am not much of a water park person. Like, I don't even own swimming trunks. So I say, nah, I'll pass. And Blondie passed as well. And we end up going to the game room for the convention, which, compared to some of the other things we've gone to, is smaller. Like, the console room wasn't really much to look at. It was mostly just Smash setups, and then like a couple other random things. But we went to the arcade room, which I think it was Snow Phoenix who provided the arcade machines. They usually provide a decent variety of stuff. Footnotes, there's an Initial D machine there, so you can probably guess what Tiger Uchimaru was doing for like half of the con. Anyway, we head there and we just hop on some of the PopCap style machines. One of them was playing, I think it was Metal Slug X. So we basically did a playthrough of that. And then there was another machine. It was, I want to say it was Darius Gaiden. It was definitely one of the Darius games. I think it was Gaiden. And we played through that one too. But eventually, we're just kind of game roomed out. So we head over back to this, it's not really a lobby area, it's just open floor space when you walk into the Kalahari, where you can see the restaurants, and then there's this huge window where you can look out and see the indoor water park. So we walk over to this big ass window, and we decide to see if we can pick out where Tiger Uchimaru, WonRull, Casey, and Kira are. Just by dumb luck, we happen to look out right as they're crossing this bridge that is headed right toward us. And with them is Ben Diskin and his wife. Eventually they stop, like close to the window, and they look up and they see us. I see that they see. I see that Ben looks up at what they're looking at, and I take out the Hawaii tape and hold it up. And Ben makes this angry face and shakes his fist at me. And I'm just like, not today. And I back away from the window. They go into the changing room to, get from the water park back into the hotel area. And, to go between the places, there's this arcade. Well, that's one of the ways you can get out. There was apparently another that we didn't know about, and they went through that one. We were at the bottom of the stairs, leading up to the main space, waiting for them. And there are all these people walking by, going back to the hotel rooms. Eventually, I see Kidd Bandit walk past us. They're referred to as the heart gold and soul silver of professional wrestling. Their gimmick is basically giant weeaboo. But they're very endearing about it. There was something called Mega City Wrestling that happened, I think it was Friday. They ran a show that was technically part of the convention. So Kidd Bandit, they were in the main event wrestling for the title. I don't know what happened with the match. I actually see them walking from the water park to go up the stairs and I'm guessing go back to a room. And I almost said hello to them, but I chickened out at the last moment. Hopefully, at some point they come back to a show in Ohio. Eventually, we all end up heading back to the hotel. I should mention that I hated our hotel so much that I was trying to look up other places to book nearby. But I didn't follow through with it because, well, I can't afford to pay that much for a room on short notice because the costs usually go up when you do that. So I slept on top of the covers, like I mentioned. WonRull slept on the floor. I mean, I wouldn't want to sleep on any surface in this hotel room, but knowing how dirty it is, I would never want to sleep on that floor. Even if you had something laid down on top of it, I would still not do it. So that was Friday. There are still 2 more days to this convention. Saturday is basically Eric Sparrow Day, because that's what I was wearing for most of the day. Tiger Chimaru did the Venus cosplay again. We drive to the convention, and at this point, parking is just, outright ridiculous. Because it's the busiest day of the convention. The parking is just ridiculous at the convention, because all the parking spots are taken up. The staff blocked off the parking with barricades. They're directing all the cars that are coming in to, go to the back and, drive onto this grassy area to park. A grassy area that is going all the way around the convention building. Something I noticed is some people really do not know how to handle driving on grass or dirt. If you're driving on that, you want to preserve momentum wherever you can. And I'm seeing people in Kia Souls and Honda Fits who are constantly hitting the brakes and then trying to accelerate again. It's no, you're making this so much harder on yourself. I end up parking on the grass. I grab the skateboards out of back of my car. So eventually, the Tony Hawk panel happens. I decided that I was going to film this. But the tripod that I brought with me did not have the base plate that I need to screw into the bottom of my camera to be able to attach it to the tripod and just leave it as it is. So I have to hold up the camera the entire time. And I also have to stand near an outlet to keep the adapter plugged in to make sure that the camera doesn't die. So my arms are getting really tired. Casey goes through the whole thing with Ben. They play their custom intro to the panel with Ben's new clips. Casey's going back and forth with Ben on microphones, and Ben is doing the Eric Sparrow voice. Casey asks Ben,
Hey, Eric, help me out. How do I jump from building to building?
And Ben just snaps back,
Use your goddamn legs, you idiot!
They're playing through. Eventually they get to a point where they're both playing the game in free skate co-op. You can unlock pedestrian play in this game, being able to play as all the pedestrians. And Eric Sparrow counts as a pedestrian, so Ben is playing as him the entire time. And he's talking about, like, how voice work was different back when he did the voices for Eric Sparrow for both Thug and Thug 2. And it was actually pretty interesting, but halfway through the panel, Casey points me out, standing next to the wall with his camera, saying that I'm an Eric Sparrow cosplay.
The buddy over there is cosplaying Eric Sparrow.
And I go, you know what? This is my opportunity. I pull out the Hawaii tape and I go,
Looking for this?
Is that a tape?
Now what follows from this point was 100% improvised by all three of us. So Casey's like, is that the tape from Hawaii that... And then Ben Diskin sees this and he goes, you son of a bitch. And he goes, he stands up. He walks off of the panel stage and starts walking toward me. And I go, oh shit, I know where this is going. This is like my first interaction with Ben the entire weekend outside of taunting him with the tape. I unplug my camera, turn around, and just run to the back of the panel room. And the whole while, Ben is like yelling at me, give me back that tape! Casey starts chasing after me too. So I'm being chased by Ben Diskin and Casey Mangelo around this panel room while all these people are like laughing and wondering what the fuck is going on. I have enough presence of mind from staffing a convention where I participated in a cosplay musical that would frequently do chase scenes that went out into the crowd, that I realized wherever the chase scene ends needs to be in a place where as many people as possible can see it. So I make my way like back to front and center, like in the middle aisleway, like 3 rows back from the stage. And then I just stop and turn around, and both Ben and Casey are like a couple feet away from me. And I just go, whoa, 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 I'll tell you what. And I point at the screen, because they were playing on the Hawaii stage, and I go,
one last trip around Hawaii. Winner takes the tape.
And I specifically phrased it that way, because that is what Eric Sparrow says right before the final level where you face off against him to try and win the tape back.
One last trip around the neighborhood. Winner takes the tape.
If you play through the game once and get to that scene again, there's a hidden ending that triggers, where Eric says,
one last trip around the neighborhood. Winner takes the tape.
And the player skater just punches him and takes the tape. Well, he like throws an elbow and knocks out Eric and just takes the tape, and you don't have to do the last level at all. So I specifically said that line, and Casey caught on to what I was doing, because Casey, in one smooth motion, like grabs the tape and like throws a feint elbow at me, and I just pretend like I took the hit and fell to the ground. And everyone in the panel's going like, yeah, woo, fuck Eric, yeah. They take the tape up to the stage. I like crawl back to where my filming setup was, get the adapter back in the camera and start filming again. And then Ben just looks back at me and goes,
I don't know what's on the tape. They better not be porn. We're gonna get in trouble.
And I just yell back,
Serves you right for stealing it.
but they use that as an excuse to play like the ending cutscene of the game, which is like the film footage of the player skater doing the helicopter jump. After the panel, he gives me back the tape, and we like do a quick fist bump before he has to like immediately run to an autograph signing, which actually was an autograph signing that I signed up for. So the way Colossalcon does autographs is a bit unusual. Instead of just saying, this is the time when they're signing, line up if you want an autograph, first come, first serve, they do sort of like a Disney Fast Pass system. What you do is you line up at this kiosk, and they ask you, who do you want to go to an autograph signing for? and you say the names, and then they tell you the available time slots where you can go to get something signed by them. And I guess this is their way to avoid, like, having people line up for an autograph, and then they're so far back and it takes so long that the line gets cut and they don't get anything. It's an unusual system, but I realize why they do it. So, I signed up for Ben's autograph session, like, right after the panel happened. And I brought a couple of things for him to sign. One was, outside of the Eric Sparrow stuff, he voiced Johannes in Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. So I brought my Kickstarter backer's sleeve for the game case and had him sign that. But I also brought my copy of Tony Hawk's Underground for him to sign. He sees this, and he goes, "You know what? How much of a dick can I be when signing this?" I basically told him, just be as much of a dick as you want. And he just goes to town on this thing. Crosses out Tony Hawk's Underground and writes Eric Sparrow's Underground. And then adds, "From your best friend Eric with quote-unquote love." I also got a photo with him where we're like both holding the Hawaii tape. Tiger Uchimaru and I go back and comb through the dealer space. This is something that we did like over the course of the entire weekend, but I'm just like summing it up now. We have a ton of Monster Hunter stuff in our living room. Like, we have a case that's full of figures, and then like on the top of the entertainment center on these shelves is just a massive line of Monster Hunter plushies. And over the course of the weekend, she and I wound up adding like 4 or 5 more to that. If I remember correctly, we got Ibushi, we got Narwa, we got Narwa the All-Mother, I think we got Somnicanth, and then we got a grab bag where there was a Bishaten plushie in that. Also part of that grab bag was a Royal Ludroth figure, and then I got a Silver Rathalos figure. So later in the convention, there's another autograph signing we signed up for, and that was for Kaiji Tang. 2 things ran through my mind. The first thing was, I actually had an encounter with him for the convention I was staffing, like 8 years ago. I can't remember the exact circumstances of it, but basically he asked if I wanted anything signed, and I'm in full staffer mode, so I'm thinking, like, I should just be completely deferential and go like, no, it's okay, I'm fine. But he says, no, really, anything you want signed? And I don't have much on me at the time, but I have my 3DS XL with me. And at the time, I had been playing like a shit ton of Fire Emblem Awakening, which he voiced in. He was Owain, the guy who was always talking about his trembling sword hand. I go like, well, do you want to sign my 3DS? And he's like, sure. So he autographs it, and then he puts the words "sword hand twitches" on it. And I go, yeah, that's cool. Thank you. But I kept using the 3DS regularly. Like, just tossing it in my bag, carrying it with me, playing it here and there. And over the course of, like, not very much time, his signature completely rubbed off. There was just, like, this little sliver of gray, like, where the case flips over. And that was the only remnant of the signature. And I was like, you know, I really should have thought of that, but oh well. 8 years later, I'm in an autograph line for Kaiji Tang, and I get up to him and I explain this whole saga. I present the 3DS XL, and I go, 8 years ago, you signed this for me, but the signature rubbed off, and I have on my phone the photo of the original signature. And he goes, oh my god, I can't believe you brought that back after all this time. And he goes, you know, I'm going to use a paint marker on this. That way, once it dries, it'll be much harder to rub off. And he basically duplicates the signature that he put on it before. It was like very, very close to what it looked like. I'm like really happy that that saga is over and done with, and I got the signature back. But there was one other thing that I really wanted him to do. So, you may have heard me talk at a couple points about the redub of Bloody Roar 2, which Casey and Kira were behind. Well, they recruited a bunch of voice actors they knew, and one of them was Kaiji Tang. He voiced Long in the redub. So one thing, well, there were a couple of things. One was Blondie brought his copy of Bloody Roar 2, and he got Casey and Kira to sign the character profile pages for their respective characters. I brought that book with me because there was a miscommunication and he didn't get signed up, and got Kaiji Tang to autograph the page for Long. But then I had these printed discs with the Bloody Roar 2 redub on them, and I had signatures for Casey and Kira on them, and I got him to add his autograph to the discs. He seemed really glad that someone's recognizing him for this, and mentioning I hope I did a good job, and I just went oh, you were way better than the original English voice, and that seemed to make his day. Which, it's true, he was a hell of a lot better than the original voice. Later on, we're getting hungry, and we don't want to just eat at one of the restaurants at the con again, because there was basically B-Lux, the burger place, and an Italian place that I forget the name of. We did eat there, but we didn't want to eat there again. So we decide to go to this Asian place that's on the way to the con. Actually, I think it's a little further away. Yeah, it's further away. It's further down the road from the hotel. I think it was called Suki, and it's basically just an Asian restaurant. The food there was pretty good. At least what I got was pretty good. I just got chicken fried rice because I wanted something that was fairly simple. This might just be a me thing, but I notice atmosphere in restaurants. We're sitting in our booth at this Asian place, and I realize there's no sound. There's no music playing. There's no audio from the TVs. You just occasionally hear someone in the distance having a conversation. It's like the audio version of a liminal space in this restaurant. It was a little weird to me, but I mean, other than that, it was an okay place. I don't know if that's just a me thing because I notice audio a lot, or if that throws other people off when they eat there too. So in the time between us eating at this restaurant and heading back to the con, I realize if my tripod's not working, then how am I going to film my panel? Because before the convention, I submitted a couple panel ideas, just thinking they're not going to accept these. And one of them was a Crappypasta panel, but they wound up accepting that, which I was glad for because when you do a certain amount of programming, namely panels, they'll reimburse you some of the cost of your badge. So I wound up getting $20-something back, which was fucking great. Another thing I submitted was a general Bloody Roar panel, thinking that maybe if Casey and Kira have time, they could hop in on it as well, if they hadn't already proposed something like that themselves. But that got waitlisted, and then a week before the convention, or 2 weeks before the convention actually, I got a message from their panel head saying, "Would you like to run the Bloody Roar panel as well? Here are the time slots we have available." And the time slots are 2 a.m. Thursday, which I'm not going to do, and 2 a.m. Saturday, right after I do the Crappypasta panel. I mean, I want to do the Bloody Roar panel, but I want to be awake when I do the Bloody Roar panel. So ultimately, I just said I'm going to be busy during those times and I can't do it. When I got the final schedule, they just ended up not scheduling anything in those time blocks. So I'm guessing that there were other people waitlisted who were like, 2 a.m.? Really? I'll just do my own thing. By which I mean sleep. From the restaurant, we go to a Walmart. Because I'm thinking I'm just gonna get a cheap-ass tripod. Just something I can slap the camera onto and then film the panel for my channel. And there's this like cheap plastic $20 tripod that like doesn't go up very high, but I end up getting it anyway, and I use that to film the panel. So the thing about the Crappypasta panel I did was I marked it as 18 plus, because I was including some stories that I either usually don't do for the all ages version of the panel, or that I end up censoring to be able to read them for an all ages panel. And the funny thing is, even though I'm the one who registered the panel, I still had to get age checked. Whereas some conventions will have like a volunteer checking IDs before people go into a panel room, here they make it so you have to go to Con Ops and get an 18 plus wristband to be able to go into 18 plus programming. Now the last time I ran this panel at this late of a time slot, nobody showed up. Now granted, when I did that panel where no one showed up, my panel room had also been moved at the last moment. So it's very likely that people didn't even know where the panel was. Because the people who were running it were thinking, oh, you'll be in like a more prominent panel room, you'll have more space for seating. Yeah, but no one will know where the fuck I am. So that didn't work out. This panel, however, we wound up having like a couple dozen people, maybe a little more, which I'm amazed if one person shows up to my dumbass panels. I tried setting up for the panel, and usually what I do is I have an MP3 player with all the songs on it, and it takes an auxiliary cable. Auxiliary cables are incredibly common. Like every con I've gone to has had like an auxiliary cable that you can use to get audio through the speakers. Colossalcon did not have that. Instead, all of their audio ran through an HDMI cable. And I'm like, fuck? But before I went to the convention, I thought, you know what, I should have a backup for audio just in case. So I put all of the songs that I was going to play on my phone. And they said, what kind of port does your phone have on it? And I think it's like USB-C, it's the rounded port. And they said, okay, we have a USB-C to HDMI adapter. We might be able to get audio through that. They could not get audio through that. Now I thought, you know, if they can't get the audio directly off the phone, I should have another backup. So, Tiger Chumaru has like a Bluetooth speaker, and I brought that and tried syncing up the phone with that. And at first it was working, then it wasn't working. So I eventually just said, what the fuck ever, I'm just gonna read the stories regardless of whether there's music or not. Most of the people stayed around for the majority of the panel. Another thing that threw me off about the panels, well, the room that I was in at least, was instead of having like a table and some chairs behind it, there was like a slightly elevated stage, and on that stage is like an armchair, a small table beside it, and then a sofa on the other side of it. It's a talk show setup. I was just endlessly amused by the idea of this stupid-ass panel having this pseudo-sophisticated setup. So what I did for the panel was, because it's been a while since I've done it, I went through like the old stories that I used for past panels and like picked and chose a bunch of stories that I thought would work, including one with the infamous line,
"She organismed."
There was also a story I brought where I turn it into like a drawing exercise, because there's a very confusing description of a monster, and I ask someone to draw what it looks like. It's different every single time. The person that I got to do it this year, or this panel at least, basically just drew, I think it's Crobat from Pokemon. Sunday comes, I cannot wait to get the fuck out of this hotel. We actually started packing a little the night before, just so, like, the morning would go a little faster. Even so, we basically just have enough time to go to the con, and then, Casey and Kira had another autograph signing. And right after that, they had, like, a very little bit of time in which we could meet up with them and chat for a bit before they had to, like, meet up at the green room and then catch a ride to the airport to catch their flight. Well, we're hanging out, like, near the autograph space, just waiting for their autograph signs to end, and they had a shit ton of people going through their lines, like, all weekend. And we have just enough time to, like, say it was nice meeting them, give our goodbyes, and then snap one last photo. Now when my parents ask, like, who my friends are, I finally have a photo I can show of them that doesn't have me giving one of them the middle finger. Sunday, we drove back home, and then when we got home, the fatigue set in. I don't really remember much of anything up until Monday when Blondie took off back for Canada. I can't remember if this was before or after the con, but fuck it. Blondie and I started playing Zombie Panic in Wonderland DX on the Switch. There's a co-op mode in that. Now, I'd only ever played the original one. I didn't have much of a perspective for what DX was like. It was on the 3DS, and then it got ported to the Switch. And, it's a different experience, if only because you can't, like, aim at the screen. You have to use a control stick to aim everything.
On your word.
Which I guess is okay. It doesn't feel as natural, but what are you gonna do? Except, when we tried syncing up the controllers for co-op, Blondie was on a gamepad. I was trying to use both of the Joy-Cons, but for some reason only one of them synced up. So, it was a little Joy-Con that is in the mode you use for, like, NES games or stuff like that. But the thing is, when you play in that mode, you can't move and shoot at the same time. So, I was struggling quite a bit, but because I was familiar with the style of gameplay of Zombie Panic in Wonderland, I was able to carry that over, even though DX adds a bunch of new stuff. Like, there are new bosses, there are new enemy sequences. The camera is a little annoying at times because it keeps going to these really awkward perspectives and has a bunch of shit off screen that you have to try and dodge. I still prefer the original from a gameplay standpoint over it, but I do still want to get it at some point and maybe play it on stream. I remember Tuesday, that was when Tiger Chamara went back to work. And again, WonRull and I caught her on a lunch break at Cane's, I believe it was. Because we were going to do Heroes again, but they're closed on Sundays. Tuesdays, excuse me. So we did that, and then WonRull wanted to check out another used game store that was part of the same chain of the ones we went to before. And then we had just enough time before heading to the airport to go to the main one again. And he, like, did some last-minute checking, last-minute purchases, and we went straight from there to the airport and said our goodbyes. I went home, and yeah, that was Colossalcon. I enjoyed the convention itself. Next time I go, I'm gonna try and do more of, like, the I'm gonna attempt to do the water park stuff, even though, like, not particularly keen on water. I mean, I know how to swim and everything. It's just that, well, I might as well say it. My older brother kind of ruined swimming/water stuff for me. I gotta get over it at some point, right? And I also want to try, like, either the mini golf or the blacklight golf at some point. The con was good and the hotel gave you 100+ to all your immunities. Basically, Haru. That's basically what happened.